Vincent C. Gray, V-I-N-C-E-N-T, C.Gray.
For a little background, could you tell me briefly about yourself and how long you've lived or been involved in the Hillcrest community? And you could include any involvement in the Hillcrest Community Civic Association.
I am a native Washingtonian. I grew up in Northeast D.C. I'm a product of the public schools of the District of Columbia. I have lived in Hillcrest since 1984. We raised our family there, 2 kids, and feel like I'm very involved, especially now in the Hillcrest community. An active member of the Hillcrest Community Civic Association, and have worked as hard as I can along with others to try to build the Hillcrest community.
As you may know, this oral history project is a continuation of the 20th anniversary celebration of the HCCA. In thinking about your neighborhood, will you define it as a strong DC neighborhood? Tell me why, and also explain what is your definition of a strong DC neighborhood.
There's no question in my mind that Hillcrest is a strong DC neighborhood. And for me, it's because of the involvement, the extensive involvement of the people who live in Hillcrest. The Hillcrest Community Civic Association is a wonderful reflection of that, because you go to meetings, month in and month out, and by the way, Hillcrest meets every month, all month a year, and it's rare that you find less than 50 people at the meeting, typically 100 or more people who are there. Active committees, active commitment to building the Hillcrest community.
So what is your opinion of the HCCA and its role in creating a strong DC neighborhood? Do you think it has engaged the residents of the community to encourage active involvement and participation? And to what extent do you think the HCCA has sufficiently engaged the residents in other parts of the city?
I think the Hillcrest Community Civic Association is one of the strongest civic associations in the city. And it's a reflection of the activism and the commitment of the people who live in Hillcrest. One need only look at the neighborhood and look at the results. Again, for example, the building of the new Hillcrest Recreation Center, which is an outstanding facility, the appearance of the neighborhood itself, and the desirability of the neighborhood for people who increasingly want to live in Hillcrest.
So how effectively has the HCCA worked with the Hillcrest community, and by extension the rest of Ward 7, to garner goodwill, promote neighborliness, and maintain that wholesome community? And how effective has the various forms of communications and outreach been effective, or is there room for improvement?
Well, I think there's always room for improvement, no matter what the endeavor may be. But I think the Civic Association has done an extraordinary job communicating with the people who live in Hillcrest. The meetings are excellent. Typically, people who are policymakers, opinion makers, leaders in the city are brought before the Civic Association. Issues affecting the everyday life of the people in Hillcrest are discussed there. There's an excellent newsletter. There's an excellent website. So there's some great communication tools that have been developed and continue to be refined that I think do a great job in communicating with the residents.
And to what degree do you see HCCA and the neighborhood as extensions of each other? In other words, how effective would one have been without the other in creating the strong DC neighborhood? And do you view them, Hillcrest and HCCA, as separate entities or one and the same?
No, I think the Civic Association and the community are inextricably tied to one another. One needs to remember that the Civic Association is an outgrowth of the desire of the people who live in Hillcrest to be able to come together and work on issues that affect the common issues that affect the quality of life in Hillcrest. So remember that the Civic Association is an instrument. It is a tool of the people who live there in order to be able to improve the quality of life.
And the Hillcrest neighborhood has been known for its civic-mindedness and neighborliness, caring and respect for the beauty of the environment. Is this something you agree with? And if so, why? And are there any other adjectives you use to describe Hillcrest and the HCCA?
Well, there's no question. When you think about the neighborhood itself, when you go through and you look at the well-manicured yards, you look at the aesthetics of the neighborhood, there's a lot of pride that is evident in Hillcrest. And when people move in, I think they get a sense of that right away. There are expectations of how we maintain our houses and how we maintain the external appearance The fact that we have the garden tour once a year, I think, is a powerful statement, a value statement of what's considered important by the people who live there and by the Civic Association.
And since the first time you moved to the community, do you see a continuation of the civic mindedness and neighborliness? Has it changed over time? Is it better or is it worse? Do you have an opinion on the HCCA and helping with this continuation?
I think the Civic Association has gotten stronger each year. The number of people who are involved is extraordinary, not just as members on paper or paying their dues, people who are actively involved, and frankly who see the Civic Association as a conduit for being able to solve their problems. And there's a pretty good relationship, I think, between the advisory neighborhood commissioners in Hillcrest and the Civic Association, which again is very helpful in being able to solve the civic problems that confront Hillcrest.
And now, based on the length of time you've lived in Hillcrest, 25 years, and based on your observations and interactions, what do you see as the 3 core elements that make for a strong neighborhood in the District of Columbia?
Well, first of all, activism. You know, people who have, who believe in enlightened self-interest, and that is who pay close attention to what goes on in their community and then work hard to get things changed or get things done to help the community grow. Secondly, a strong knowledge of government, a strong knowledge of civic life in the city, and how to make the government work effectively for the people who live in Hillcrest. And then thirdly, just a very strong sense of pride in the community and using that sense of pride to facilitate growth and development.
And is there anything else you can think of which highlights Hillcrest as a strong DC neighborhood, and anything that shows the HCCA as helping to facilitate that strength?
Well, one of the things I think is important is that, I've been a huge proponent of working as one city, being able to bring the 600,000 people together in the city to work as effectively as they can, because I think we'll be the better for it. And certainly Hillcrest has had a partnership now for a number of years with the Palisades Citizens Association on the other side of town in Ward 3. That relationship and the recognition of the importance of that relationship has been incredibly valuable in demonstrating what can be done when we work effectively together with our neighbors in another part of the city.